good afternoon. Welcome again to everyone both in person and online. I'm Andy Cohen, the director of the HKUST Institute for Advanced Study, and I'm delighted to host this fourth and final lecture in a series of lectures, Stories of Creativity, organized by Mr. Wallace Chan. In our very first meeting together, I gave a brief introduction to the IAS and to Mr. Chan. And let me not repeat those remarks today in the interest of time, but just to remind you that the IAS is interested in creativity in all of its forms. That includes science, technology, as well as both the fine and performing arts. Mr. Wallace Chan, Chen Shiying Xiansheng, is an internationally renowned artist, known especially for his exceptional work and innovations in the crafting of jewelry. He became a gemstone carver apprentice at the age of 16, and the 5 decades since then, his curiosity and creativity has led to many jewelry innovations such as the Wallace cut and the Wallace Chan porcelain, and the crafting of many important pieces of fine jewelry and sculpture. His work has been exhibited in many venues around the world, and we will actually see some of that today. In this final lecture in Stories of Creativity, we will have an introduction by Wallace in just a moment, followed by a short film and then some remarks by Mr. Javier IDEAMI. Afterwards, both Mr. IDEAMI and Wallace will be available for some questions. Mr. Javier IDEAMI is an award-winning multidisciplinary artist, creative director, engineer, and entrepreneur working at the intersection of technology and art. His award-winning creations encompass a wide range of areas from digital art and fine art photography to augmented reality, interactive technology, artificial intelligence, music, filmmaking, and beyond. His work has been exhibited around the world, including at the Venice Biennale in Italy, the Ranjina Palace in Croatia, at Stanford University in the US, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, the Financial Center of London, the International Cultural Diplomacy Conference in Berlin, and many other venues. Mr. IDEAMI founded Torch, an innovation ecosystem that accelerates innovation by combining pioneering methodology, technology, and physical space. He lectures on innovations and creativity, especially to high-tech startup founders. He also acts as a scientific advisor to different groups in the fields of strategic thinking, innovation processes, optimization, augmented reality interfaces, and technology part development. Today, Javier will speak to us on transcendence and creativity. But first, let's welcome Wallace Chan to make some introductory remarks. Wallace? Welcome.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. In the blink of the night, we are now in the last lecture of the series. In today's lecture, we will explore the topics transcendence and creativity. I will keep my lecture short today, as after sharing my thought on the topic with you, I would like to show you a short film created in collaboration with Spanish director Javier IDEAMI. For Totem, my exhibition in Venice this year, I've spent half a century creating. Life to me is a dream, but dreams to me are not all flowers and fantasies. I believe that all dreams will come true. Dreams are about hard work and patience. Dreams are about giving time the time it needs. I dive into my dreams, small dreams, big dreams, crazy dreams, and only like that can I live. In Chinese, we have a saying, 1 day in heaven, 1,000 years on earth. I'm sure that many of you have heard of it. There's a story behind this saying. The story is about a young man jumping into a gorge, which takes him to another world. And when he jumped out of the gorge after just 1 day, he realizes that many years have passed. I feel like I've been living this strange Chinese stories repeatedly my whole life. It happens to me all the time. And when it happens, it is the most beautiful thing that can occur. I lost track of time when I create. I travel to this strange planet where time does not exist. I do not exist. How do you dream up a creation? How do you write a story? How do you compose a song, paint a painting, sculpt a sculpture? Some people say it begins with a single idea. Maybe, but how does that idea come about? The way I see it. It all begins with your past, the experiences that you have lived, and the dreams that you have had dreamt. Consciously or unconsciously, we collect memories, that sentiments and sediments of our everyday life accumulate inside us without our knowing what to do with them. Have you ever tried meditating? When you meditate, you close your eyes and imagine a white light coming from between your eyebrows. The light grows stronger and stronger over time until it surrounds all of you and you disappear. And then, with your eyes closed, you'll begin to see things, flashes of the past, the present, and the future appear out of nowhere. That is the light I always look for, the white light where memories float, and my desire to create birds. The light is the center of it all. I daydreamed most of my childhood away. When I first moved to Hong Kong, I did not understand any Cantonese during the 2 years that I spent in a rooftop school. I could not communicate with my teacher or classmates. But even just being quiet and daydreams got me into trouble. Or perhaps it was not being able to hand in my school fees on time. My teachers didn't like me, and my classmates liked to make fun of me. My only escape was to daydream, and it worked. Daydreaming worked when I was a child. It helps me get away from the mystery of being an outsider. It helps me get away from hunger and the cold. It continues to work today. It helps me get away from the imperfect reality and move closer to perfection. As a human being, I am far from perfect. But when I dreamed, and when I sit down and work on my dreams and try to bring them to light, it is as if I have traveled to another planet, the planet of creativity, a place where all things are possible, where time does not exist, and where perfection is near. If you have watched the movie Avatar, you will know what I mean. I love that movie so much that I watched it 12 times. Dreaming is like having a superpower. Our dreams not only help us see beauty in difficult situations, but also help us find creativity in ordinary times. In my dreams, there may not be flowers or fantasies, but there are always the seeds of flowers of fantasies. So, how did totem come about? 20 years ago, when I realized that titanium was not only light and strong, but also bio-friendly and colorful, I decided to work with it. It took me 8 years to tame titanium because it is stubborn and rigid. It has a melting point of 1,700 degrees Celsius and strong memory. You can imagine how difficult it was to find a material that could withstand the heat and become a mold for it, let alone carving on it and creating a natural color gradient on it. This complex, difficult, time-consuming process explains why titanium is rarely used in art. It is a popular metal in the science, aerospace, and medical sectors, but its potential has yet to be fully explored. Every artist has their own ideal for art. I believe that everything has life, and they all living things deserve growth. For many years, I used titanium in small-scale, delicate jewelry creations. But it has always been my goal to find ways to make my materials grow. While I enjoyed and continue to enjoy traveling to the micro world with my gemstones and jewelry, I realized that it was time to travel to the micro world and dreamed bigger. When I meditate, I see myself in different sizes coming in and out of existence. I see oneself separating into many, and I then try to reassemble these many selves into one again. This is much like my creative process. The creative process is ever chaotic, non-linear, and self-searching. There is not a most important first step, because every step is equally important. Totem refers esteemed unsettled spirit. They represent ancestors or guardians, and they believe that everything has a soul. This is why it is my goal to create lasting pieces of art, because they are not lifeless objects, but my connection to the universe. The faces I create are influenced by my practices in Buddhist art, and as a Buddhist monk, the faces of Buddha and Guan Yin. But these faces are lighter, male or female, young or old, Eastern or Western. They are natural and universe. Because this is how I feel when I transcend, these faces show the ideal stage of existence. For my whole life, I have always wanted to create works that will stand the test of time. The idea is reflected by the materials I use and the forms I give them. I use titanium because to me, it is a material closest to eternity. And these forms, these faces, they are all of us and none of us. They come from everywhere and nowhere. They embody everything and nothing. If I am very fortunate, I will live to the grand old age of 120, giving me 60 more years to live. But when I worked, I'm working on a timeline much longer than what this body of flesh and blood promises. When I am no longer here on this earth, my works will continue to exist. I will forever be grateful to the power of imagination and creativity, which not only help me transcend my reality, but also my life and my time. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Cohen. And let's enjoy the film Totem by Javier.
So welcome, Javier. We just enjoyed that film,
Thank
and
you.
we look forward to your remarks.
Thank you very much. Good day, everybody. It is an honor to be here as a guest of Mr. Chang and with all of you, as well as a great team that is here with me. We have Nick, Alphonse, we have Blai, Felipe, Christian, and Adela. Today, I will speak about creativity and transcendence. Based on all my career, I want to talk to you about how creativity can help us transcend the limitations of our bodies and minds, as well as our existence itself. To do that, I invite you all to travel together with me through a metaphor. Let's begin. You and I, all of us, let's imagine that our life takes place in an ocean, a vast, enormous ocean. And this ocean is made of what? It is made of information. Everything around us is information. And we are floating on this ocean. And now we visualize that there are two sides in each of us. There is the subconscious and the conscious part of us. And let us imagine that the subconscious is represented by a pot, a kitchen pot, our subconscious pot that is constantly cooking, mixing, combining and recombining those ingredients that come from the ocean of information. Sometimes that cooking process produces delicate, fragile bubbles that emerge from the pot and reach our consciousness. And let us imagine the conscious part of us as a shiny, diffuse, bright sphere, mysterious, as there are still so many things that we don't understand about it. And so, some of those bubbles that emerge from our subconscious pot, may be the seeds of great ideas, and they may be perceived by our conscious mind, by our consciousness, if we are in the right frame of mind. But that is a different discussion. Let's return to the subconscious pot, for we will soon explain why this has a lot to do with transcendence. But first, why do we need ingredients inside a pot? Well, we are not alone in this ocean. Around us, there are many other subconscious pots, like all of you and all of us. There are many other people, and there are obstacles, dangers, challenges. So we don't want to drown on this ocean. We want to survive and hopefully thrive. So to do that, we need information. We need those ingredients. And there are many different types of ingredients. First of all, just because we are living in this ocean, sometimes the waves crash into our pot and throw ingredients into it. We walk around, we look at things, we talk to people. Living by itself brings ingredients into the pot. Second, there are some ingredients that are very, very precious and valuable. Ingredients that can help us grow in deep and meaningful ways. But these are ingredients that are often hard to find in this vast ocean. So we need to make a special effort and persevere in order to find them. And finally, there are also other kinds of ingredients that other subconscious pots, other people, will try to force onto our pot. When people are offering us when they offer us easy solutions in life, like get rich in 2 days, or become a master at this or that skill overnight, buy this, buy that, they are trying to force ingredients onto our pot. And soon we will see how all of this relates to creativity and transcendence. But first, let's now focus on the big elephant in the room, because there is a key issue here. The universe is very complex. This ocean is full of information. There is so much information. And yet, our subconscious pot has a limited size. It is not rigid. It is kind of flexible and malleable. It can grow a little bit, but it is still limited. So, how can we add enough quality ingredients to our pot when its size is limited? The solution, my friends, is in the process of compressing and decompressing information. The human brain has developed the capacity of compressing the waters of this ocean so that it transforms high detail, low abstraction information into low detail, high abstraction information. At the same time, it can also do the opposite and go from high abstraction, low detail to high detail, low abstraction. These processes, these compression and decompression processes, have a number of advantages. First, of course, they allow us to store a lot of ingredients of that ocean because we don't need to store every little detail. We just store the essence of it all. And then we can decompress this essence and inflate it back to the high detail representation. By the way, these processes are also the processes we use when we work with artificial intelligence technology. For example, within generative AI, where we train artificial neural networks to compress the high detail into its essence, into latent spaces, to then be able to go from that abstract essence to the high detail of something new. And you can visualize these compression and decompression processes as bidirectional funnels. Bidirectional funnels. Funnels which can either converge or diverge. Converge to compressed information or diverge from the essence to the rich detail. And so we are moving here through an axis, the axis of detail and abstraction. And I would like you now to visualize that axis as if it was an elevator. I call this next metaphor the depth elevator metaphor. Imagine a vertical line with an elevator that moves up and down. At the bottom, there is high detail and low abstraction. It is the visual realm, the acoustic realm, the richness of the details of the universe. And at the very top, there is high abstraction and low detail. It is the ivory tower where, for example, language lives. And so, in life, we are moving through this line, through this depth elevator. And let's focus for a moment on what abstraction on that ivory tower means. Let's suppose that I went for a walk in nature and I saw a beautiful cicada. In the last months, I have thought a lot about cicadas because of the recent collaboration I did with Mr. Chan in relation to a new audiovisual artwork related to his masterpiece, Stilled Life. And so, let's imagine that a friend of mine asks me about my walk in nature, and I say, it was wonderful, I saw a beautiful cicada, and my friend asks, and what did the cicada look like? And when I hear that, I visualize the cicada in my mind. And imagine that I see in my mind 1,000 times 1,000 points of light. That is 1 million points of light, or 1 million dimensions. And if I see color, and each point has red, green, and blue components, then it would be 3 times that number of values. And so, I could tell my friend, yes, I will describe to you the cicada. And I could begin. Well, the first point of light on the top left had 12 of intensity of red, 100 intensity of green, 27 of blue. The next point on the right of it had 100 intensity of red, etc., etc. And I could go like that through the 1 million points. And what is the problem? That this would take me like 1 month, and by then my friend would be long gone. So, dealing with the high detail of the ocean is not very efficient. Plus, the fine detail often doesn't provide relevant information. What is the usefulness of knowing that this point of light has 55 of red intensity? So, I will do something different. I will compress all of that complexity and richness of the details of the cicada into just a few dimensions. 30, 50, 100, a small number anyway of factors that explain relevant information and the essence of what I saw. And I will tell my friend, look, it had a broad head, a stout green body, and clear membraned wings, 4 wings. And the wings had this kind of patterns, and I will describe them. And it had large compound eyes, and this number of eyes, and 6 legs, and the legs were like this, etc., etc. I have compressed the high detail representation onto a small number of dimensions that communicate important and relevant information. And now, my friend, she hears this, and she does the opposite process, decompression. She transforms these few compressed dimensions that express the essence of what I saw and inflates them back to visualize in her mind the high detail representation that would correspond to that essence, the image of a cicada, which will be different from the one I visualized because of the decompression process. Because you can go from the essence of something back to the high detail representation in many different ways. And so, in a way, my friends, every time we remember something, every time we recall something, in a way, we are kind of recreating it, rebuilding it, reimagining it from that essence that was stored. Of course, that reimagination will be different, more or less consistent, etc., depending on the consistency and richness of the essence that has been stored. Now, again, this process has a lot of advantages. It allows us to store a lot of the complexity of the ocean in a compressed way and makes our mental processes more efficient, so we can reason about cicadas and flowers and other entities without having to describe all their infinite details. And by doing so, we can also save precious fuel, the glucose that powers our brain. And this is what we see in language, high abstraction, when we communicate with each other. And again, these are the same kind of processes that we use when we work with artificial intelligence technology. If you understand these compression and decompression processes, you are already understanding a lot of what we do when we train and work with artificial neural networks. But now, what are the disadvantages? What are the disadvantages, my friends, of the process of compressing the complexity of the ocean of information? Let's go for that. Well, we know that balance is key to a good and healthy life. Balance in all areas. And the problem with this compression process, the problem with it is that high abstraction, when we are on that ivory tower, we're also very separated from the richness of the universe and the waters of that ocean. By being too often on the ivory tower of high abstraction, at the end of those convergence processes, we are living on the tip of the iceberg, on the narrow end, which is very far from the details and richness of the deep ocean of life. And this is what happens typically with most adults, because little babies and kids mostly diverge, because the brain modules that deal with analytical thinking and convergence are not yet fully developed in them. Adults typically have the opposite situation. They mainly converge. They develop these massive and strong analytical muscles, and their creative muscles, their capacity to diverge, goes into atrophy. They are typically passive consumers, dedicated to compressing the richness of the universe onto narrow simplifications, and to spit out those simplifications, but often poorer and more distorted. And my friends, this lack of balance between convergence and divergence, between the analytical muscles and the creative muscles, produces many mental health issues, in both cases, both if there is too much convergence and also if there is too much divergence. And I have spoken about this many times in the past, but that is not the topic of this talk. So now we arrive to the most important part of this talk. Now we arrive at transcendence. Now, based on everything I said so far, I will suggest to you how creativity may help you and us all transcend our limitations as well as our existence. So first, to transcend the limitations of our bodies and minds, we need to find a good balance between both ends of the depth elevator. We need to amplify, to overcome those limitations, we need to amplify the potential of our subconscious pods. And for that, we need to find a good balance between our capacity to converge, which because of physiological, cultural, etc. reasons is always going to be pretty strong, and our capacity to diverge and expand, between our capacity to compress and synthesize the essence of the complexity of the world, and our capacity to expand that essence towards the new and the different. You need to keep the depth elevator moving. You need to prevent it from just going from bottom, high detail, to top, high abstraction, and to exercise as well the opposite direction, from high abstraction to high detail. By doing that, you will enrich and amplify your subconscious pod, which you can also do by collaborating with others, like I have been doing with Mr. Chang. By collaborating, we amplify our subconscious pods, and both Mr. Chang and I bring to each other new ingredients that complement each other's cooking process. And so we may, in this way, transcend the limitations of our subconscious pods by keeping those funnels and depth elevators active, dynamic and moving, and by collaborating with other diverging and complementary subconscious pods. And finally, my friends, transcending our existence itself. To go into that, let's go for a moment to Stilled Life, Mr. Chang's masterpiece. When I was starting to work on the Stilled Life project, Miss Cherry Rao and Mr. Chang explained to me that the word stilled in the title refers to filtering, as in filtered life. meaning that a wise being is able to filter the noise and the storms and the temptations of life and remain calm and centered. So I want to take this beautiful concept of Mr. Chang and bring it to you here again to tell you all to imagine and realize that you and I, that all of us are filters of the waters of the universe. Yes, we are filtering the beautiful waters of the ocean of the universe. All of us, we all receive a gift, life, our life, and in return, we give back. We give back to the universe, to the ocean. What do we give back? We give back its filtered waters, hopefully in a richer form from the one we received. So, my friends, a good life is a life in which you give back to the universe its filtered waters in a richer, more diverse and unique form, so that those filtered waters enrich the ocean of life, as well as other beings that live within it. So finally, my friends, we all have a choice to make. You and I, all of us have a choice to make. If we are just passive consumers of that beautiful ocean, if we are not creative and we are just comfortably living in our ivory towers of abstraction, then we will compress the waters of the universe, filter them, and put them back into the ocean of life, but in a form that is less rich because of the process of compressing and decompressing. Because of the compressing and decompressing process, some of the richness typically gets lost and also often distorted. But, my friends, if we are creative and dynamic, we will then absorb the waters of the universe onto our subconscious pods, compressed. But we will also combine those gathered ingredients with many other ingredients in novel ways, and also with the compressed waters of the subconscious pods of other people we collaborate with, like in the case of Mr. Chang and I. And we give back to the universe waters that are different and more diverse in meaningful ways, waters that enrich that ocean. And also, those ingredients that we give back are now part of the ocean of life, and they may reach other beings on that ocean and enrich the life of other people for a very long time. And in all of those ways, my friends, creativity may help us transcend our existence. That, my friends, is the legacy of a great creator like Mr. Chang. To transcend existence by filtering the waters of the universe, making them richer, deeper, different, and more unique. Waters that can reach far beyond our lives and impact in meaningful and positive ways many, many other beings across that beautiful ocean. So thank you, and may you all become beautiful and enriching filters of the dynamic and ever-changing waters of the universe. Thank you.